Hey guys, welcome to the Backlog podcast number 53, and today we got a chance to sit down with NihongoGamer and talked about getting his start as a YouTuber, what qualities make an excellent gaming controller, and his thoughts on Street Fighter 6 dynamic and modern controls. I hope you enjoy this episode.
Yeah, isn't that what this is all about, really? Just social media? It's just trying to get people to like you. Please, someone. Like me, please.
And then I'll count how many times people like me.
That number matters, okay?
Number matters. It's motivation.
Like when you go, like when you die and you go to heaven, you know, God's gonna be like, how many subscribers do you have? And then that'll be the deciding factor.
Yeah.
I'd rather not talk about it.
Down to Lake of Fire.
Yeah, but did you use the Mr. Beast meta? Ah, damn it, I should have.
I feel like I'd be stuck in purgatory. Like, oh, none? Alright, well,
Double it and give it to the next guy. Anyway, yo guys, welcome to the Backlog podcast number 53. I'm Matt.
Quintessence.
I'm NihongoGamer.
Yeah, today we're joined by NihongoGamer. Absolutely.
How's it going?
No, I didn't try to skip over him. I'm just saying, I'm trying to, hey. Anyway, man.
No. What's that?
But yeah, I don't know. So I guess I don't know where we should start here. Maybe we should start with the interview questions. We just delve straight into it.
Well, how about,
Oh.
briefly before you guys begin, why don't you tell me more about your podcast? What kind of stuff do you do here? What can I expect on the show?
So we're basically a fighting game podcast that our whole thing is that we try to interview individuals from like kind of each area of the FGC. So that could be like smaller creators or people that run Discord communities for like Super Dragon Ball Z or you know, I think we had someone from Cyberbots on here. Just very super incredibly niche things, but also, you know, we had Juicebox on, who is we all know Juicebox. He's sort of a teacher, an instructor, and his streams are like heavily in teaching.
I think of him as the guy from the Street Fighter documentary.
Oh,
They did this long. It was like a 1 or 2 part, or it was like a 1.5 hour video. It was called like the fighting game community, the video, and they follow him through his Street Fighter 4 finals at Evo or something.
was that the same one where they had like Triforce Game Master?
That might be it. That might be the one.
where like they were showing him like working at Empire Arcadia, which was like a game store or something like that.
Sounds about right, yeah.
Like a G4 documentary, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe it might have been, yeah.
But yeah, so basically the whole idea is to just to like meet people from every kind of aspect who aren't typically, you know, who might, you know, get some kind of traction from people who talk to them, but sometimes, a lot of times, people that don't, and a lot of games that don't get much shine, and sort of, you know, getting like this whole. There's so many aspects to the FGC that I don't think are shined upon. And
Sounds amazing.
Putting a light on various places, you know?
Sounds
Expanding
great.
reach.
Yeah, there also was like a creator on here. I don't know if you've heard of My Life as an RPG, but But essentially, he's like a creator that will take science and he'll mix it with anything, and he's very much into fighting games as well. So we had him on, and he sort of, you know, was able to relate a lot of like science facts to fighting games, and sort of it was this really interesting, you know, very interesting guest to have on. But
Bill Nye, the video game guy.
Exactly.
I can't think of a better idea. I'm gonna cancel my own channel and restart with a science theme.
I
We
mean,
don't
hey,
need coffee, we don't need fight sticks, just we're gonna have science and video games.
it's beautiful. Man, I remember watching that show as a kid. I remember, wasn't there like a giant guy dressed as a giant rat or something like that on there?
I mean, he had all kinds of weird stuff going on in that show, so I wouldn't doubt it.
Yeah, it was
Also,
like.
he wasn't even a scientist. That's the cool part.
Wait,
Was
Bill
he?
Nye's not the scientist?
Yeah, he's like an engineer or something like that.
Hold on, wait. Bill Nye degree.
The controversy.
Oh,
Not
yeah,
even a real scientist. He wouldn't even make it 10 days on Twitter these days. He'd be cancelled by now.
Right?
I mean, he has a
Show's
BS.
already on the ropes.
All the real science community, they're like, he doesn't represent us. Not my scientist. Not my scientist.
Oh, okay. So he has a BS in mechanical engineering, which is a science degree.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's not chemistry.
Yeah.
We kind of all thought he was a chemist, though.
yeah. He really like sold himself as the general science guy, chemistry kind of stuff. You're like, oh, this is how the environment works and all that stuff. Like,
Yeah.
not really.
Yeah.
Beekman's World. Oh.
Actually, I forgot about that. That was like almost like a knockoff version of Bill Nye the Science Guy, wasn't it? Beekman's World. If anybody remembers that.
I don't think I've ever seen Beekman's World.
I don't think I've ever seen that.
Yeah.
Maybe it wasn't airing in the UK.
I
Right.
don't know. I watched
Oh.
like Magic School Bus, Bill Nye, that kind of stuff.
Right.
What a show. Oh my god. What was the
Wait.
name of that teacher? Mrs. Frizzle?
Yeah,
Or something
Mrs.
like that.
Frizzle. Yeah.
Amazing. Oh, what a show.
Amazing. Great
Yeah.
show. Slightly outdated now, but it's fine.
Yeah, man. I think I saw this video on TikTok that was like Mrs. Frizzle like now, where she's just like this old lady who smokes a lot with a New Jersey accent. It was great.
Aw.
Uh,
Aw, Miss Frizzle, say it ain't so.
Need more of that in my life. Well, why don't you NihongoGamer, why don't you tell the our viewers a little bit about yourself, who you are and what you do?
Right. I run a YouTube channel called NihongoGamer, and I sort of have a Twitch channel, but I've stopped streaming regularly because, well, for all sorts of reasons I can go into, like, not like bad reasons, just kind of didn't have time to do the regular Twitch grind. But it's a YouTube channel about video games and mostly fighting games and arcade sticks. And I guess the main story actually about the whole channel is that it was not meant to be about fighting games. It was meant to be about random Japanese like stuff that I found and video games that are useful for learning Japanese. And yeah, that content obviously wasn't super. I mean, actually, it was popular, but I just got obsessed with fighting games. I think, like all of us, I think we know what it's like. You fall down the rabbit hole. You play one fighting game, and then suddenly you're in the fighting game community. And it's like, wait, the what? I didn't even know that was a thing. And yeah, now the channel's all about fighting games.
I think I remember like early. I was watching your channel like early. I believe when you had like videos on cycling, like where you would go. And like you know what I mean? And I think it eventually became a channel about fighting games.
Right. You're right. Yeah, I think for the first 5 years or for the first like 5 years or so, it was actually just me opening up like, oh, I got a PS Vita. Okay. Oh, I'm in Hiroshima today. I'm gonna go cycling with my GoPro. And it was pretty much anything happening to me in Japan. And it all changed.
All changed.
I think another channel I can think of that's kind of similar to that, and this one definitely makes sense, but like Giuna. You remember Giuna?
Oh yeah. Well, what was his? Okay, so I want to say I joined the fighting game community. I got my membership card in 2017 or so. So actually, I didn't really know who Giuna was. I just saw him doing commentary, and I always thought that Giuna was this commentator who just bullies other commentators because it was him and Obama. I didn't know that they were friends.
Oh,
I just thought that he was just really mean to this guy called Obama every time, and it was him and Z.
Yeah.
They would always bully him together, but I didn't realize it was a joke. I didn't realize they were friends, and so I was just like, wow, this guy's really mean. But obviously,
This guy's such an asshole.
but then I got into his channel. I was just like, oh man, this guy knows everything. He's played every fighting game. It seems like he's been there for like since the very, very beginning.
Yeah. But like
He seems like that.
to kind of like compare your channel to his is sort of like believe he was the same way, where he basically did videos where he was just walking around Japan and like he would go in and like buy mangas, or like he would go on a trip somewhere. But now his channel is all like solely fighting game stuff. So kind of the same
are
thing.
just they absorb you, right?
They really do.
Can't
They really do
escape.
absorb you. And I think it's a good thing. Fighting games they're one of those rabbit holes that you happily jump down, but then you don't.
Yeah.
I think you don't realize until later on. It's like, oh, I'm addicted. You don't even realize you're addicted until it's way down the line. It's too late. You can't let go
You're
of it.
playing
anymore.
4 different games. You're like, I may have a problem. Yeah.
Well, you've got like 50 controllers like hanging on racks on your walls, and you're like, wait, am I an enthusiast? What? Who am I?
I might have got a CRT in like 2023, so I mean I might have a problem. You know what I mean? Like, it was free though, I'll say that.
Really?
Yeah. $3.99.
Amazing. Is that a 32-inch 28?
I believe it's like 32 inches, but I could be wrong.
32. Must have been heavy. I used to carry those things for a living.
Were
One
you
of my
Smash
first
player?
jobs- No. Yeah,
That was me.
I started Evo.
Oh wow.
I was carrying all those TVs into a truck.
Whoa.
No, so I one of my first jobs was just helping out in a local TV store, and I wasn't very good at selling TVs, and the other guys are really good at selling them. But they're like, "How about you just help deliver the TVs?" So I'd end up like getting on the truck and carrying these TVs up staircases, and they're 50 kilos for like one TV, and it's all that glass at the front of the TV. And I mean, you must know because you just carried that one. Mm-hmm. They're really heavy.
Yeah, it almost didn't fit in my back seat. So I had to really kind of finagle it in there, you know. But yeah, the guy was just giving it away for free, and he's like, "Oh, lightly used, doesn't use it anymore." And sometimes people don't really know what they have. I think it was one of those situations where, like, if you're a retro gamer, right, and you see like, "Oh, a component television for free, a 2-component television," oh, I'm on it. And you know, I still play a lot of my old consoles, so it's mainly how I play video games now.
There's that channel Digital Foundry. I think they're often talking about how if you play on a CRT, then actually you're kind of getting a better resolution than a lot of HD and LCD screens because of just the way that the I don't know what they're called, phosphors, or the screen elements, they just kind of phase differently, and it's just sharper.
So
Yeah.
the basic idea is that it's an analog signal. It's not
Right.
meant to be played on a digital television. So if I were to play, in my personal opinion, if I were to hook, you know, a console up to this, it looks way better than hooking it up to an HD TV. Like, it just looks, I don't know how to explain it other than it looks right. It doesn't look wrong. There's no like weird artifacting going on. But you can use like upscalers. Like, I have a RetroTink 5X, and
Right.
you know, to upscale that
love
to
one of those.
1080, right?
Right.
It's even then, it still doesn't like knock your socks off as much as like a regular CRT would.
See, that's what I'm thinking, because I've got one of those. I've got an OSSC, and I remember when I was looking into CRT stuff, I was kind of blown away that it would ever matter that you played in a higher resolution. But it's like, if you play these 240p games at 4K, then I think they've got more freedom to do the filtering and kind of bring back that analogness of the CRT. So I think there's a number. I think it's like the number doesn't tell the whole story.
Right. Yeah.
CRTs are amazing.
Yeah, CRT. I mean,
Just get one if you can. Get one.
yeah, I have like 4 now. Not because. So
I thought this was a new addition. I thought the CRT behind you, just like, I'm getting into CRTs now. I didn't know. Now you've got 4. See, it's just like arcade sticks.
that's what it is.
Habit.
Yeah, but you practically stole that one. It was free.
Well, actually, the thing is that they're all free. That's the thing. Is like, what, because people will give them away. It's sort of one of those situations where it's like, Okay, well, if I don't get it, somebody else will.
Yeah, or
And-
it might just go to the tip and just get thrown away, which would be
Yeah.
Yeah,
bad for the environment. You're
Yep.
doing the world a service.
yeah. I'm just
True.
hoarding all the trash in my house. That's really what it is. I found.
Practically stealing, legal stealth, stealing.
Legal stealth. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
legal
yeah.
stealth, legal stealing.
stealth.
These two TVs over here, the ones behind, you can't really see them, but they're right next to it. They're actually like high definition analog televisions.
Right.
Yeah.
I remember at the very end of the CRT era, because that was when I was kind of selling them, and it was like I remember the Panasonic, Sony Trinitron.
Yeah.
I think, well, maybe it was Panasonic. I can't remember which one, but it was like flat screen was really confusing because back then flat screen meant the whole TV was flat, but it also meant that CRTs like they didn't have a bowed screen at the front, and people were just like, "I want a flat screen." I was like, "Oh yeah, I've got a really nice CRT. How would you like this one?" They're like, "No. I mean like one of those ones you hang on the wall."
Oh, the lighter ones. Yeah, no, I'll get that.
Yeah,
These
people
are
used to call them both flat screen.
so these aren't like the Trinitrons. These are actually what are they called? They're PVMs, professional video monitors.
Right, I heard that. Yeah.
So what they are is they actually it would be like if you worked at a television company, like what they use for monitors there. At least if they were running like an analog signal then. But they're kind of out of date now, but fantastic for, hooking your GameCube up to it. It looks
What's
amazing.
the refresh rate on those bad boys?
I actually don't know. I don't know what the refresh rate is. I'm assuming it's at least 60 FPS, but they're able to do you can hook up like there's a slot in the back, right, where you can switch it out. You could do RGB, you could do component, you can do composite, SCART. Basically you can just slot it in. Be like, oh, I have a SCART cable for my N64. Slot in the SCART cable, hook up, plug it in, and you're good to go.
It's
And it
so
looks
different to the
fantastic.
modern era where we need a dongle for everything.
Oh God, tell me about it.
Everything must become USB.
Everything.
And in the process, and everything becomes laggy.
Yeah. So what this actually does is it takes the analog signal, makes it high definition without upscalers or anything like that. It's just sort of all like natural environment type thing. That's kind of how I look at it. Analog signal, natural environment, analog TV looks great. Digital, so on and so forth.
Amazing. It sounds like for the now, it sounds like a really great cheap hobby, but it sounds like it's probably going to eventually get kind of expensive.
Only if you pay scalper prices, yeah.
Yeah. As
Which,
these things go up in as they go up in value because they're rare and hard to find, eventually you'll be like, when I got into this hobby, it was really cheap. Now I'm spending like thousands and thousands more than I would for a normal HD TV.
I think you'll find that anybody who has is into retro gaming and has a CRT, they don't just have one. I will say that. I know of people that have an entire room of just full of CRTs.
Oh my God.
They have them all linked together. They turn them all on. They
Like
play,
the TV studios.
Yeah,
Got all
exactly.
the
Yeah,
VMs.
exactly. There you go.
But they have no reason to do that.
Well, this is the natural birth of a YouTube channel. This is how all YouTube channels begin. I think you buy one thing and you're like, I love this thing. But then you have 2, and then you have 4, and then you have 10, and then you're making videos about them, and then you're making reviews about them, and then people are interviewing you because you make reviews about these TVs, and you're like, wait, am I a YouTuber? Somewhere along
Oh
the
no,
line.
stop. Go back.
Yeah, somewhere along the line you became an influencer.
And that's how you got here, huh?
And that's how I got here. That's the story of how I got here.
Wow. So I think we kind of I don't know how far we got off the rails on that one. It feels like we went way off the rails, but
It's still relevant
that's,
though.
That's the
Still
fun of a podcast. You just
Right.
gotta go.
absolutely. So I suppose we should probably start with the next question, and that would be, how did you get your start in sort of the gaming industry? And we can kind of connect into that because it sounds like we touched on it a little bit. And what kind of inspired you to become a YouTuber?
Okay. It's an interesting question, isn't it? How'd you get started in the gaming industry? Because it kind of sounds like my job is in the gaming industry, but I suppose now it is. now that I do YouTube. But what really happened was before I did YouTube and before I came to Japan, I really wanted to be a video game music composer. And so I was really into gaming for that aspect because I played games and I loved the music in it, and I wanted to like be a composer. I was like, this is the best way to get into the industry. So I studied a lot of music at university and composition. And then I didn't really become a video game composer. I just moved to Japan and I was like teaching English, and then I started a YouTube channel. And the composition dream has kind of disappeared. I mean, I still write music every now and then, but I don't really follow it as much. But that's initially how I was getting into the gaming industry. Mm-hmm. And then while I was in Japan, I wasn't actually into fighting games. Actually, I remember I had a party at my house, and I was like, I bought a Dreamcast and Soul Calibur, and I thought, yo, we should have like a video game party. We can just have people bring consoles and play games. And someone brought Pokemon Stadium, and another person brought the TMNT, the Turtles game on their like Xbox 360. I was just like, whoa, my whole house is a video game arcade. And one of my friends shows up and he goes, yo, do you have Street Fighter 4? And I said, should I have Street Fighter 4? He's like, why don't you have Street Fighter 4? Because I had like Soul Calibur going. We had, what's the other one? Is Smash Melee or Brawl, one of them going. We had all these fighting games all over my house, and we didn't have the one that everyone was playing. And this was a party in like 2014, 2013 or so. So it was like peak Street Fighter 4 time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I was just like, should I have Street Fighter 4? What's special about that? I knew that little about the fighting game community.
What's special about that? Oh, nothing. It just reshaped fighting games. It's cool. Whatever.
No big deal.
Precisely. So yeah, that's when I was like, oh, Street Fighter 4, and then someone showed me a video about Evo, and I was like, what is this? But after that, yeah, I made my YouTube channel, and actually because I wanted to figure out okay, sorry, this story is going to get really long, so I'm going to try and condense it as much as possible. But initially, I wanted to make a website called NihongoGamer, and I didn't want to be actually anything except the manager of the website. So I got a bunch of friends. I was like, can you guys tell me which video games are good for learning Japanese? So for example, if you play like Persona RPGs, there's sometimes like a backlog button, so you can actually check what people said up until now, and you can re-listen to all the audio. And I was like, that's amazing, all of this free Japanese dialogue. Other people are buying like Japanese dialogue CDs for learning Japanese, but it's like, we already own all these games, may as well just use them, and in context as well, to learn Nihongo, to learn Japanese. And I was like, why don't we have a website that just collates all of the best games for learning Japanese, and I won't even have to write anything, because I'll get you guys to write the articles for me. And of course, I had like three people wrote articles, and then they never wrote again, which is kind of how it always goes when you like source, when you like try to make a website or a review site.
It's fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Then I realized that's when YouTube was kind of booming, like 2012, 2013. Everyone was like discovering monetization. That's when it had just started.
Yes. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I didn't even know what monetization is, and that's another story. I'll talk about that later. But I realized that people don't want to read a website about learning how to learn Japanese. They just want to listen to or watch videos, because we're all lazy, and I myself included. That's how I discovered YouTube. I was like, well, we should make videos instead. So I was like, okay, I'm going to buy a bunch of JRPGs, and I'm going to unbox them, and then I'm going to play them. And there's actually videos of me on my PS Vita playing JRPGs and trying to like translate them, and there was a series I did about Animal Crossing where I'd like show the Japanese word on screen and try to like learn and educate at the same time. And it was just so much work. It was so much more work than I was expecting. But that was actually the first 4 or 5 years of the channel, was trying to find Japanese games that I could learn Japanese through. And so that's kind of my entry into the gaming world. I suppose the next question would probably be, what was the entry into the fighting game world.
Yeah. Let's delve into that. Sure.
Yeah, we can segue straight into that. Let's go.
I suppose when I bought, it's up there. I think that red, there's a red arcade stick here, and it's got Toho Project character.
Yeah.
On it. That was it. That was like, I need to buy an arcade stick, and I want one with a cool anime picture. I didn't even know what really Toho Project was. I was just like, I want one with a cool anime picture on it. and that was the slippery slope after I made a video about getting back into Street Fighter with this large arcade stick. And then I was like, I'm going to change the buttons. I think I switched the buttons out for Sanwa buttons. So I was like getting into the modding scene. And then I was watching a bunch of other people's YouTube videos and learning about fighting games. I was like, what is Street Fighter 5? And I discovered Excellent Adventures, which I think, I mean, there can't be anyone who's never seen that.
Yeah, that was probably the time where Excellent Adventures was popping too. Like they were probably
really
peak, at their kind of popularity.
Doing numbers.
Yeah. Incredibly popular.
Yeah, I mean, and that was definitely one of the ways that I discovered a lot of I don't want to say the word Hollywood, but like the really famous people in the FGC, all the top players who have, really won all the competitions. So yeah, I was watching a lot of YouTube, started reviewing more arcade sticks, and then just bit by bit, all the other content kind of disappeared. And then I actually went, I think my first fighting game event was Tokyo Game Show. It might have been 2018. It might have been 2018 or 2019. I think that was the first fighting game event that I ever entered. And I absolutely didn't think I was going to win. I just wanted to like take part, like in the way that you go to a convention just to, buy goods and watch interviews.
Have fun.
And then I finally went to EVO Japan. And by the way, I've still never been to EVO in America. So I still consider myself not really in the FGC yet. I haven't been to like the main event.
I mean, I don't think that's fair. I think you're more than part of the FGC at this point.
Okay.
Like to me, I don't think Evo is like a baptism of. Well, here you go. Here's your membership. You're part of the FGC. I know plenty of people who are part of the FGC who have never been to Evo. It's a little expensive, and I haven't been to any Evo. I'll say that, but I
haven't either.
I feel we all feel like we're part of the. I mean, the fact that you're
a fake fan. What can I say?
You're
what? Sorry,
I'm a fake fan. What can I say?
He's a fake fan.
No Evo.
I feel like just even being a fan makes you a part of the FGC. If I'm being 100% honest with you, you're part of the community.
Yeah,
you contribute.
Absolutely. There was a video by the guys. They do a podcast, the Trash Taste podcast. Like 3 British guys who live in Japan. I don't even know if they still live.
Yeah, I know that.
I'm not even sure if they still live in Japan. I think one of them's half Japanese. Anyway, the point is they made a. Was it them? Okay, I'm getting my stories mixed up. But there was a time a few years ago when someone said, like, all I do is watch fighting games. I don't really play fighting games. Then a bunch of content creators in the FGC were like, that's actually one of the best things you can do for fighting games, because even if you don't play them, if you can boost these numbers of people watching them, then naturally other people are going to want to play the games, and the community is just going to get bigger through that.
Yeah.
But yeah, we need those spectator numbers.
Oh, definitely do.
Yeah, I mean, I know like content creators even who just they really love fighting games. They're not very big into going online playing against other people, but they're so passionate about it. They love the story of a fighting game, something heavily neglected, until hopefully Street Fighter 6 changes that.
Street Fighter 6, we got this. It's fine.
You say neglected, do you mean neglected in terms of content creation, or do you mean in the games themselves?
I would say that plenty of people who have jumped on the content creation aspect of that, but I would say fighting game companies and games have not really embraced the single player experience.
Oh,
yeah,
sure.
For sure.
Yeah, I mean, unless it's Mortal Kombat. I would say Mortal Kombat is probably.
There are exceptions, yeah. So Mortal Kombat, Unist, like freaking Street Fighter 6 now. Tekken's been trying to have a story,
I mean,
all that fun stuff.
Guilty Gear, besides being incredibly confusing, is just one giant movie. You know.
Yeah. Feature-length
So-
film.
But yeah, I don't.
Well, actually, on that, before we move on from that topic, I think
absolutely.
it's one of the really important things to understand, like with fighting games, is that even if a lot of companies are doing something, it's like if the main people and the main devs don't do it, then it doesn't become like the trend. So unfortunately, with Street Fighter, even though Mortal Kombat has been putting all this effort into like cinematic story modes, in fact, I think they did it before Street Fighter even had a cinematic story mode, and then Street Fighter added theirs later in the game. But it doesn't really matter. It's not that it doesn't matter. It's just it takes. It's almost the responsibility of companies like Capcom to embrace certain things to make them the norm.
Yeah, for sure.
A bit like, I don't know, women in cinema. It's just like, well, if the big companies don't kind of force more women into movies, then it'll just continue to be what it's always been. It's just like not enough representation of ethnic minorities and whatnot.
Exactly.
So it's like, if now that Capcom's doing it though, they're like taking responsibility. They're like, okay, it's an important thing to flesh out the single player mode and the story. Probably it will be the trend that every other company also does it as well.
I mean, it kind of
More content. Let's go.
It's strange that it takes Capcom to do it, but when NetherRealm does it, it's just like it's whatever. You know, I don't really get it.
I can kind of tell you my opinion on that though.
Sure.
It's probably just that Mortal Kombat doesn't exist in Japan. Like, it can't exist in Japan because it's actually not on sale. It's like banned. You're not allowed to sell Mortal Kombat in Japan. Like, if I go on Steam, even though I've got, like, I think when I made my account, I was in the UK. But now that I live in Japan, Steam knows that I'm in Japan, and they won't even show me the game. Like, I can't even search for Mortal Kombat. It won't show up in the search in Steam.
Yeah.
So that's why I don't ever see Japanese players in top 8 in MK. Is because
Exactly.
They can't play it.
Because they're not allowed to. Well, yeah, legally they're allowed to buy a copy abroad and then bring it back to Japan. But it's just not for sale in Japan. So it's like the only person who owns Mortal Kombat in Japan is Goichi, I think.
Really?
Because he wanted to play with
the one
Sonic
guy.
Fox. He's like, because I want to play with Sonic Fox. So he went and bought a copy like abroad. But I think no one else has ever played it in Japan. Well, that's not true. I'm sure a bunch of people have played it.
Yeah.
Isn't there sort of like a stigma about decapitation in media in Japan? In Japan, isn't that sort of a bigger thing?
Okay, so there is a stigma. I don't know if it's an official, like, you're not allowed to show it in movies. They show people having their heads cut off in movies all the time, I think. But the stigma, do you know what the stigma probably is, though?
I don't, like, isn't it like defilement of a dead body or something of the sort?
I think it's more that it's still an actual punishment in Japan. Like, if you do something wrong enough, I think they can still you can still be hanged in Japan. Isn't it?
Really?
Oh, so I mean, this is not a fun side story at all. But when I was teaching English, one of the main games you teach them, one of the main games you use to teach to have fun with English is Hangman, because we all think that's funny because it's not a thing anymore, right? So Hangman, it's just a stick man. We're just gonna put a stick man on screen and just gonna write the word octopus, and if you don't guess it, the man gets hanged, and they're just like, we can't do that. You gotta take that off. Erase that off the board. I'm like, what? But this game's
It's a fun little game.
Yeah, no, it's a real thing still.
Yeah.
I doubt they still do it, but I think it hasn't been officially been taken out.
It's like there are states where it's okay to, I don't know, marry your dog or something, but people aren't really marrying their dog, or
right, yeah.
A police officer would probably
some states electrocution, death by electrocution.
Right, exactly, yeah. So
Texas.
It's one of those things that's it's just like a game like Mortal Kombat comes out and they're just like, okay, maybe not. I think there's a lot of things like that in Japan where they don't think about it. I mean, again, I don't work in the government or anything, but I think they probably look at things and go, Well, we could try and find a way to classify this that makes it okay, but it would be easier to just not bother, and maybe they just like go, okay, sorry, there's no classification for your game, so we can't sell it.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Well, I mean, it's a shame that NRS games don't really get traction over there in Japan, but maybe that'll change at some point. Who knows?
I think that could change. I think that, I mean, especially with fighting game, I don't know what it's like in the States, but it definitely feels like it's still growing in Japan, and definitely with Street Fighter 6, I feel like, okay, I mean, it's not like there's a million esports teams or anything, but esports definitely still feels like it's growing. You still see magazines and young FPS players printed on the front of these magazines. I feel like it's still growing. It's not rapidly growing, but it is still growing. And with Street Fighter 6, it's going to get an extra boost, and hopefully that kind of boosts things in the West as well.
Yeah.
Well, with Capcom putting up all of the money, people have been like, "Oh, Street Fighter? Yeah, no, I could try some Street Fighter." So like we've been definitely having like a fighting game boom over here in the West.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You know, it reminds me, and every time someone brings this up, this is the first thing I think of, and is that Capcom having $1 million or so. I think it might have been 2 million for like total
2
prize
million
pool.
Total, yeah.
So
Yeah.
we looked up the prize pool of the first million in like Dota or something like that. And it was like in 2011 that they had their $1 million prize pool. Yeah, their first $1 million. I think like the winner now gets like 12 million or something like that, or something absurd. It's gotta be like, I don't know if it's 12 billion, but it's a lot. It's a lot more than, like, it took fighting games a long time to be like, all right, we'll make a millionaire. But until then,
We're just like a niche little baby genre. Let us grow. Jeez.
but we've existed before the, like, you know, like Dota and MOBAs. Yeah, for sure. And it doesn't make any sense why it's sort of so, you know, off to the side of everything else. Like everything else shot up, you know.
It's just thorny, isn't it? It's because, I mean, there's a lot of reasons, but it's like, one, it is a bit of it's like a harder sell, just because it's one-on-one. When you have a team thing, it's almost like it's easier to market them as a product, and also you've instantly got like 20 people on screen, and people can't lose interest as much. I think with fighting games, if you don't like Akuma and Chun-Li, then it's just like, what else is there to look at on the screen? In League of Legends, there's like 20 characters. Well, that's not true, but there's like 10 characters on screen, and there's all sorts of different locations. Anyway, that's sorry.
It's all over the place.
I ramble,
Yeah.
but the main thing is that, like, because it started grassroots, people don't want to just let esports companies come in and try to take over. And it's not because they're scared of esports companies. It's because often they come in, they sponsor players, give people careers for like a year and a half, and then they disappear. And they're just like, okay, we're done with fighting games. So it's like, I think the FGC is looking for sustainable partners, people who can actually work with us and not fire us next year. Because are there any esports teams that haven't just like fired everyone after 9 months? So it's just like, yeah, you're all part of the team. Oh, by the way, we're not a company anymore. What?
I mean, I would say like Panda, but then again, and
They were doing so well.
Yeah, they were doing very well.
Oh, Panda, yeah.
Panda Global, but then sort of like the only person I remember sticking with them was like Justin Wong for a long time, K-Brad, you know, people like that. But they did have a rotating roster of, you're not doing well enough, goodbye. You know what I mean? It was still very much that way.
Well, in the MOBA space, you have teams like TSM, which had the same roster practically for about 3 years.
Yeah.
Like they would rotate maybe like one player or so out. It's pretty crazy. Like,
That's just how it is. I think it's this is the thing. It's like we're looking for a sustainable partner, but also the reality of esports is like you say. I mean, even at the longest, you might have a career for 3 years and then you get rotated out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
But also
how do we
like
train creators?
sustainability thing, right? Like some esports they like hit their boom, right? But they can't sustain it. And so like things are just dropping off right now. And that's like the major issue in esports right now is we've kind of hit like a wall of sustainability. You can't have all of these things going at once and things are just falling over and over. Like teams are dropping out in like League. Like 3 teams died this year in League of Legends.
Really?
Yeah. Because it's just there's no sustainability. There's too much going on. There's too many people trying to get in.
And then on top of that, there's the natural drop-off for fighting games. People, even if there wasn't esports, people kind of give up after 4 or 5 months. And I guess recently, because games are now live services, they get updates and they kind of reinvigorate life. But the numbers never really ever reach the numbers that they were at the. They go back up a bit, but then they, in general, it's a downward trend until 4 years later, the next version of the game comes out.
The next game comes out. You're like, woo, we're back.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, you can see how many content creators are on to the next thing after, like you said, 5-6 months, something like that. Because it may not be anything. They may not have a character they like, or the meta is just not interesting. Like, look at maybe Maximilian and Injustice 2 is an example I can think of. Like, he just did not care for the meta whatsoever. Yeah, absolutely. I feel like that game was just, it kind of came out. For some people, it's like this huge thing. It's kind of strange, isn't it? Like Street Fighter 6 feels like this huge thing that you can't, like this momentum juggernaut that is going to like knock down some doors, like Street Fighter 4 did. And
it feels like Capcom's really just putting everything in to 6. Like 5, I feel like didn't have this much of a push. Like Capcom really, I don't know, almost maybe regrets the beginning of 5 and wants to have a much better start for 6.
It's almost like they learned.
oh my god.
Wow.
They're learning.
But the thing with Street Fighter 5, I mean, when you go back to, I mean, I watched the official documentary that Capcom put out. It was like 3 parts when Street Fighter 30th anniversary came out. And you see these guys talking about when Street Fighter 5 first released, and even then, they're like, well, with Street Fighter 5, we tried something really new. We had the V system, and it basically everything. They were like, we're really focused on esports. And the thing about the push with Street Fighter 5, even though it was a new game with, honestly, it had better graphics. It was on a different platform. There was a lot of stuff that was going to be good. I mean, Street Fighter, I mean, honestly, it's not the best netcode in the world, but it is rollback, right? And I still play Street Fighter 5 over a lot of the delay-based games that I have just because it is rollback of sorts. But
it plays fine.
Even back, yeah, exactly. But even with Street Fighter 5, you can tell that the push was more of it was like marketing speak. Like they know that the game is not actually, how do I explain it? It's not actually features that are tested that we know that fighting gamers like. It's just like we're just trying stuff that we want Street Fighter 5 to do. We want it to do esports things. We want it to have comeback mechanics. So with Street Fighter 6, it doesn't feel like they've gone for anything that would just work marketing wise. It's like every feature they've seemed to put in is stuff that we've honestly been asking for. And they're like, can you just put this stuff in the game? And they're like, okay, we're finally just going to give it to you all at the same time. It's like there's a parry from SF3. There's like a guard break mechanic from Street Fighter Alpha. There's like a mechanic from every game they've ever made, all put into Street Fighter 6. It's going to be I'm kind of scared of it launching.
I'm overwhelmed just thinking about it, honestly.
Yeah.
That's understandable. I definitely think, yeah, for sure, man, Street Fighter 6 is going to be amazing. But like a game like Injustice didn't really have that sort of momentum where it felt like it came and it went like in one kind of swoop. And I don't know what it is about NRS games, but it always feels that way, right? Like maybe it's one of those things where it's like every other game. It really seems that way, right? Like every other Tekken makes a huge impact. Every other, Mortal Kombat game. Like, it always feels like the game that's in between is always experimenting. And it's like, you just got to deal with it. You know what I mean? And then the later version of that game is going to have a meta that's pretty fun. But, will you stick with it until that point? You know, that
Well,
I
think
wonder
some
as
people
well-
have gotten. Oh,
yeah.
sorry. No. you
Oh,
can
go on. I'll remember.
Oh, okay.
I'll remember.
I was gonna say that I think some people maybe feel burned by NRS because repeatedly they've shown that they don't really fully support their products. Like going forward, like they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna support this for years. Years was an exaggeration. Here's a year of content, and we're out.
see you later.
Here's what's an exaggeration. We bet was season 1.
Yeah, season 1. Here's MK11. 2 years. 2 years. Okay, best we can do is a year and about 8 months of radio silence before we say, hey, it's done.
That's right.
It's interesting. It's interesting because with MK11, I mean, again, it's a game that I can't even buy, so I haven't even played it. But from the outside, looking at the numbers, it does feel like it sells differently. Like 11 million copies. I don't think Street Fighter V ever reached like 4 million. I still don't think I don't think Street Fighter V will ever reach that number. It's too late for Street Fighter V now. But that's a game that is sold to people who just buy games, as opposed to Street Fighter, which is a game that it sells to people who play Street
fighting
Fighter.
games.
It's like a completely different demographic. And with MK, they must have been like, well, yes, obviously the fighting game, the esports element is important to us, but really we're a game company and we make games and not live services. And I wonder, it's like, that may change now that Street Fighter 6 is like leading the charge of the next generation of fighting games. Maybe everyone's gonna be like, okay, this is the generation that we all get on board with esports. It's really gonna happen this time.
Esports and rollback, we swear. Let's do it. Just let's go.
It's looking good so far.
This
It is,
game,
yeah.
this game feels more important than Project L to me. I know that Project L is supposed to be this big game and it's going to be important, but it feels like that's just going to be an experiment. Really more than anything.
Okay, so I'm gathering that from our chat so far. It sounds like Quintessence has more of the information from the MOBA side, and Matt is more of the fighting game side. Is that kind of how this?
So far, I guess that.
So far, like
what I mean.
I definitely have like a strong MOBA background, and
Right, okay.
I am newer-ish into like deep into the fighting game stuff.
Right,
But I've
okay.
always been like watching fighting games and then playing a little bit.
I think my question is, with Project L, is the important thing that it's a game made by Riot, which is a well-known company that clearly has. I mean, they've clearly taken all the talented people from the FGC and put them into this company to make this game. So we know that the game should be solid on a gameplay front. But is the more important thing about Project L just that the existing fan base of League of Legends is insane? Like, this is like no other, because I watched the documentary, like League of Legends built up with no advertising whatsoever. They're like, it was only word of mouth, and only through word of mouth they still had conventions with like, I don't know, 500,000 people showing up in cosplay. Like, can you imagine if 500,000 people showed up in cosplay for Street Fighter? It's a completely different world.
Yeah,
It
for
really
sure.
is.
I
I
wonder-
personally
yeah.
think the big point of Project L is, I think it's going to try to set a standard. It's trying something new, which is like the free to play, like completely free to play model, rollback net code, and they're still going to be supporting like the esports side. So like, it's basically just one huge experiment that I think if it goes really well, other companies will like take notice,
Right.
and that could really like elevate things, and we could maybe move past the egregious DLC practices that we currently have in the fighting games. Maybe, possibly.
Yeah, paying DLC characters at this point still is starting to feel like, why do we have to pay for these characters? And then you're
Right.
telling me that the new character is better than everyone? You're saying that Luke is the best character, and I have to buy him?
By,
It does
by
feel
a
really
mile?
like, why am I? It does feel really weird when you look at all the other esports. It's just like, oh, most of it is like cosmetics. They're not really paying for the characters, especially mainly in League of Legends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just. I think it's basically just going to be a whole test of what does a fighting game look like when it has money. Is free to play the future is going to be another thing that I think a lot of people are going to answer. But I think one game that has sort of disproved that so far, and there haven't been many, would be, obviously you'd have to go back to my God, I can't even think of the name. It's still in beta apparently. Damn, what is the name of the game? It's got
Rising
multiverses. Multiverses is an example of.
It's been taken out of beta, right? It's actually gone offline. It's coming back next year. Or
It's
something.
gone into a year-long maintenance. It's gonna be back, we promise.
Yeah.
But haven't people already paid for DLC for this game?
Yes.
Paid
Yeah.
DLC during the beta.
The cash shop was fully open. People spent money, and then they just put it into maintenance for a year. It's not coming back. I don't think. I think that's
That's really
gone.
interesting.
I think it'll come back personally. I think it's popular enough.
Because
Yeah,
its numbers plummeted. Like
Really?
it started with like 150,000 people playing, right? And then it just kept dropping. By the time it went into maintenance, I think it averaged like 2,000 players online. Which is
funny because
ridiculous
as
fall
a
off.
as a fighting game player, we'd see numbers.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
2,000. Whoa!
This game's so active, man.
Yeah.
I just don't think free to play. It's going to show whether or not free to play is sort of truly the future. And I just don't have a whole lot of faith in it at this point. Also, I may be biased because I'm big on character design, and I particularly don't care for any of the way that I've seen any of the characters designed.
Oh, do you mean in Project L?
Yeah, so far. Yeah, I haven't really
Okay.
The very little I've seen of it, or even League of Legends. Like there's no character that I'm like that one. You know what I mean?
You've seen all 160?
Maybe I have. Maybe I have. You don't know that.
That sounds like a tweet repay.
Oh,
Yeah,
God.
exactly.
You're like that's like a blue check. That's a blue
Well,
check. mark.
actually-
Tweet reply. Oh, I suppose you've tried them all, have you?
2,000 likes on that comment.
Yeah.
But
People reporting your comment?
Yeah.
but
Other
yeah.
users added context. That's my favorite one.
Yeah.
He did not actually buy this car. This is a video. This is a fake video from 10 years ago. I love that. Sorry, go on.
No, it's all good. We should probably switch to the next interview question here.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, yeah.
So, question number 2. What do you think sets your content apart from other gaming YouTubers?
Ooh. I felt when I first got into fighting games that there was a huge predominant leaning towards swearing and talking like you how do I say, you use the lingo, like you use the fighting game lingo. And in my opinion, that's a really important part of building a community. When you've got a lingo and everyone understands it. Well, for example, everyone calls each other bro, right? So
Yeah.
bro, what was that? It's like a natural way to speak if you play fighting games. But because I didn't kind of get into the community through real events, since I got into it through watching YouTube videos and by having my own channel, I feel like I wasn't exposed to a lot of that, and so I don't speak like other people in the community. And I feel like just naturally my channel, maybe how to explain this? I feel like when I watch certain channels, I feel like, okay, but this is a channel for people in the community. This is for FGC people. And then there are other channels which are really general, which are like Marquez Brownlee, right? You don't think, wow, I'm really into tech, so I'm going to watch Marquez Brownlee. He's just like one of the number one YouTubers on earth because he just talks really calmly about anything. He's like, I bought a car, I bought an iPhone. And yeah, he's like the head of the the tech world, but you don't think like, if I don't have an iPhone, I can't watch this guy's videos. And I think with fighting game videos, there's a lot of, oh, I'm not part of the FGC, or I've never been to an event, so I can't, maybe I don't kind of really belong here. So anyway, what I'm trying to say in the most roundabout possible way is that I think because I didn't start with real events in the FGC, I feel like my channel might feel less exclusive. I'm not saying that fighting game channels feel exclusive, but you do feel like, oh, this is a channel for a kind of person. But I think my channel is still on the like general people, like,
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes any
So,
sense.
so what it sounds like is your channel caters to the casual audience.
I think so. I like to think so.
You can be in the FGC and still watch your content. But also, if
Right.
you're just a guy who's like, I want to learn about arcade sticks, you can go watch a Nihongo gamer video and you'd be like, oh, this is so cool. He's very descriptive about everything, very detailed. I would also say the fact of you being a teacher, a former teacher, really helps in that kind of that light as well.
I hope so.
Yeah, I would say so.
Well, I've been watching your content for years at this point, and I love
Thanks.
your channel. So I would like describe your channel as just like comfy and educational.
There you go.
I'm gonna write that down.
That's just how it is.
It's
It's just all the videos are just really just like nice, down to earth, and it's great.
Thanks.
Yeah,
It's perfect.
I would say that as well. Like the music choice as well. Yeah, that rings a bell too. Like the music choice is sort of very, casual, very comfy. You know what I mean? Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, absolutely. Let's see.
Yeah, I mean, by the way, so I think something that I always feel like when I'm making videos, because I watch a lot of fighting game channels as well, so I'm kind of quite acutely aware of what is different and what isn't. But I think one of the main things is just people swear a lot in fighting game videos, and I think it's just natural because that's what people say at events. It's just like, okay, I mean, I'm not gonna repeat it because I just generally, just because that's how I grew up, I just didn't really swear
Sure.
very much in my house, and I feel like that's just one of the things that I felt. It's not important for all channels. In fact, I don't think it's important for any channel. But on my channel, it's one of the things I was kind of proud of. Was like, it's possible to make a channel with fighting games and not swear a lot. It can be done, and I kind of felt like that was something I could be proud of.
Yeah,
But it's not not actually important.
Staggering.
I mean, totally. Yeah, I can see where you're coming from on that as well. Like, for sure, when I was growing up as well and watching like Next Level, people swear all the time. I swear all the time when I play fighting games because I get angry. I mean, but for sure, you know, I think that is
swear
a
just to
factor.
Swear. I don't know why. Fighting games, it just makes me swear. Doesn't matter.
I would say, yeah, for sure. So to top it all off, your channel is educational, comfy, no swearing, no thuggery. Roger that. Okay.
Oh, thuggery.
No CPT certified. Oh wait, no, Evo certified. Got you.
Evo certified. That would be so funny. That would be like the number one thing that the FGC would hate, would be if there was ever like a FGC certification or like a membership card or something. It's just like, that's not how it works.
Yeah.
That would be really funny.
There's still a lot of pushback
My
on
grassroots.
that too. My grassroots.
No, mug, and it's like MUH, mugrass.
My grassroots. So can you describe your process for selecting and reviewing games/products for your channel? And have you ever been
Okay.
burned? And the second part of this question, have you ever been burned by working with a company?
First question. What do you mean by burned? Like, is there an example of?
I forgot also
Something
Quintessence can ask the next question. I apologize. Yeah.
What? Oh, the next question.
Yeah. If you don't mind.
You have to expand on his question. Your question.
I messed up. You were supposed to ask this question. Go ahead, NihongoGamer.
Okay,
apologize.
I'm
so
supposed to ask the content one.
I just have a question. Do you have an example of a person getting burned by? Do you mean like they did a review and the company kind of
Yeah,
shunned
something like
them?
that. Like the company kind of like came down on you because of the review, for example.
Okay. Man, my nose is really suffocating. I don't think anyone has ever like had a really bad backlash, but definitely lost contact with Razer after I made that video about the Ryan.
Oh, that thing.
Hold on a second. Excuse me. So I made a video about this controller called the Ryan. But it's actually a really interesting pad, and when I first unboxed it, I was all over it. I thought I really liked it, but just it really bothered me that you can press all the inputs at the same time, and you'd have to like lift your thumb back off the D-pad to press a button. The point is, you can press all the buttons. There's no pivot in the middle of the D-pad, and that kind of bothered me. Anyway, I tried to give it as fair a review as possible, and I was like, you can even like amend your technique to use this pad and just don't push down in the middle. But Razer, this was NDA for 2 years. I wasn't really allowed to talk about it, but it's over. The NDA is finished now. They actually sent me prototypes of the new one, and they're just like, well, since you have all these opinions on the controller, can you help us develop the next one? And technically, in that situation, you should charge. You're not a reviewer anymore. You're a consultant. You're a design consultant. Anyway,
Get that
I didn't
money.
charge. I was just like, look, I just want this controller to be good because it's almost there. You guys only need to make like one change to this controller. So they changed the controller. They sent me the prototype, and that was it. I never heard back from it. And the only thing I ever heard was that a new controller came out called the Wolverine X Chroma or something like that. And apparently, I think all the Razer controllers that have a pad that looks like the one on the Ryan, I think they all have pivots on the inside now. And I never got that product to review. So it's like, why did they ask me to why did they ask me to like check the prototype and then not actually send me the final product?
They
And then
want
I
some
tried to
free
contact.
consultation.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not like sore about it because I like Razer controllers. I still buy them. But it's just I thought it was a shame because I was quite willing to review the new one, and it sounds like they changed the thing that I wanted them to change, so it would have been a good review. Anyway, there's one other topic. Oh, sorry. Was there something you wanted to say?
No,
Nothing.
no.
There's one more, and I won't say who the company is, but we spoke. They said, "Would you like to review our controller?" I said, "Sure. Yeah, send it over." And then there was a delay because of manufacturing or something. And then when I went to ask them again, I was like, "So when do you think you'll be able to send it over?" They're like, "Well, I mean, why should we send you a controller?" I was like, "Well, you don't have to send me a controller. I don't. It doesn't really benefit me if you send it to me or not." And they're like, "Well, I mean, obviously you think the controller is good and you want one, so I think the phrase was, you obviously want one for free, so we'll send it to you then." I was like, "What? I don't. You know what?" I was like, "Let's just make sure this stays clear. I don't actually want one, so actually don't." I actually said, "Don't send it to me. I don't want to be in a situation where you gave it to me because you thought that I wanted it." So I still haven't reviewed that controller just because this weird misconception that I was contacting them to get a free controller. It's just like, I don't know if you've noticed, I don't want any more. I've got too many.
You got room.
A few spots over there I can see.
Technically, yeah. I see a space there. No, I do have the
Hang
space
some on the
for it.
wall.
But yeah, it's like I'm well within my means to buy one and review it if I wanted to. But I just thought it was really strange. It's like, why would you accuse someone of trying to get a free thing when you say like, "Hi, are you offering review units?" I wasn't even asking that. They asked me to review it. So anyway, yeah, I would
That's
count
a
that as a
weird,
kind of a burn. Like
aggressive
they
thing.
burned the bridge. Right?
Right.
Yeah. Just odd aggression. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it was kind of strange. But that's just how it is. And I don't think they're a bad company. I think there was just weird confusion. They were just like, "Who is this guy? Why is he asking for a controller?" It's like, what? I'm not asking for anything. Anyway, yeah. So stuff like that does happen. So what was the first half of that question there?
It was for selecting and reviewing products, like selecting the products you review.
So I'll read it again.
Yeah.
Can
Yeah,
you
go for it.
describe the process for selecting and reviewing games/products for your channel?
Originally, it was if it's a Japanese game with text and audio in it, that's how I would choose it, because I wanted people to learn. I don't want to help people find games that they could learn Japanese with. But I got so into that. It was so much fun doing it that I ended up buying all the limited editions as well. And it was like, I wasn't even playing the games by that point. I was just unboxing these limited editions, which come with all these goodies. It's just like, wow, cool carry case for my PS Vita, and these little keychain straps of these anime characters. And I was like, what is this channel about anymore? And that's when I just ended up just uploading anything I wanted. And then because the channel gained traction through that, I got a number of people contacting me directly, just like, would you like to review this thing and that thing? And my criteria for saying yes or no was whether I think the product is, I don't want to say a scam, but if I feel like they're trying to just like take people's money, I generally try to decline it.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't want to be in a position where I'm like, you guys should try out this product, and then it turns out to be like a virus, or it's just really terrible value for money.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I do see. I think I've changed my criteria on that, because I think at the start I was like, if it's kind of iffy, I'll just have it not on the channel. I think now, I think I would probably still accept it, but then I would just be honest about whether it's like a bit of a scam or not. So it's like, do you know what I mean? It's like, by not talking about it, am I really helping anyone? But at least if there's a video about it, if I do talk about it, then I can like state clearly. I think there are other options where you could get better value for money. You might choose this if you really wanted this feature, but by the way, you do get a virus when you download this software, blah, blah, just be honest about it.
It takes your social, but gameplay's pretty good.
And credit card.
Exactly. But that's the thing with all products these days. Even using Google, which is something that there's probably no one on earth who's never used Google, but that's a free product that we all recommend all the time. We use it as a verb now. Just Google it.
Yeah.
But Google, every time you open up that page, it takes everything from you. It knows your location, it knows your name, it knows what you looked up, it knows exactly how you moved your mouse on the page, it knows how fast it was moving. It's like, now Chrome collects your passwords. I'm not saying that they're doing anything bad with it, but it's just like, they are holding everything about you, and it helps to inform people, if you're going to use this product, this is what will happen to your data.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it's a good way of going about it, honestly.
I think I'd watched one of your product reviews recently where you had reviewed a stick that was meant for specific use for emulators, which was insanely specific, when it's sort of like, okay, so any USB controller can plug into a computer and work with an emulator. I'm like, what was the angle? Why would you buy this? And then
right.
I think you said it was like $150, or maybe it might have been something around $100 for the controller. When it was, the build seems sort of a little cheaper than, at least from my perspective. I'm not, but yeah, it sort of helped me be like, well, why would you even buy that? Why would you buy this stick? So I did think it was quite helpful. In terms of, buying a product. So I can definitely see how just reviewing it is like so huge, instead of rejecting the product. I think that's way more helpful than, rejecting like, that seems sketchy,
Right, and exactly, I think that's exactly what I mean. I think in that I've changed my criteria. In the early days, it's like, well, it's better if that thing's just not on the channel at all. I think for example, when that specific controller, I did get the email. First of all, I didn't actually know how much it cost. I actually often say yes to a lot of these products, not even really thinking about the price, because there are some people who just have plenty of money, and the money is like no object anyway. So they're just like, well, I spent $1,000 fixing my car today. What's $400 on a Victrix? It's like, to some people, like the perspective is really different.
Yeah.
So I thought I wasn't too worried about the price. But then in general, I just thought the controller, okay, well, it does have some interesting features. And on the picture that they sent me in the email, I couldn't tell anything about the build quality. I didn't know that the buttons would like pop off just by pressing them. I didn't like literally double tapping any button makes them all pop off, which my son thinks is great. He thinks it's a brilliant toy for him. He's just smacking the button, they're just flying off the thing. But but they also seemed like quite a small company, so I feel like in fighting games, it's not worth making enemies with anyone. Like even the small companies that don't have a really perfect value for money product. For example, Razer Pantera, the OG one. It's like the best value for money you can ever get in any stick. This thing is like $200, but it's got a pneumatic pump in it. It like opens up like what's something that opens up slowly? It opens up like a Zelda chest. It opens up and you're like, oh. This is the greatest thing ever. It's got extra parts in it. I think it comes with an extra back top as well. It's got all Sanwa parts. This thing, it's got a removable... Okay, look, this thing is like the best value for money ever. It's a shame they don't make it anymore. But not every company
now it's like
like that.
$400.
Exactly. But not every company has the means to do that. Even for example, when Snackbox sent me the Micro, I think a lot of people were like, okay, so now everyone's sold on the Micro. They're like, yeah, if you're going to buy an all-button controller to get this teeny tiny Snackbox Micro. But at the time, I think people were like, a lot of the early comments in that video before it kind of blew up into a really big video, a lot of comments were like, $300 for that thing? Like, I think it was a very direct comparison in their mind. It's small, so it should be cheap. The idea that something could be small, made by a company of like, I don't know, I think it's like 3 people. It's like a guy, his wife, and his children help when they're home from university. And then they go back to university and production had to like reduce again because they've got no staff anymore. I think it, like, what I said earlier, is there's no need to make enemies with anyone because everyone's kind of doing their best. Even if the product's not, it's not really what I would use in a tournament. They are a small company trying to sell handmade stuff and give it a whirl. See if it's got
you
some
plink
benefits.
and all the buttons fly out. Oh, well.
My kid loves it.
I will say this: when I started playing fighting games and I was trying to get into Street Fighter, I had an arcade stick that broke, and I bought it like secondhand off a friend. So I went and I bought a Mayflash, right? And this was like a really cheap Mayflash PS3 controller. I'm not quite sure what build it was. I can't remember anymore. I think it said it worked with like multiple different consoles, including the Wii.
Yeah.
Do you remember this one?
I've heard of it. A lot of people talk to me about it.
That's a good one, actually.
Well, okay, so they've
bad.
got different tiers. There's like an F100, an F300, and an F500. And there's one that doesn't require a controller to be plugged in to work, but most of them do. So to like,
This was before the, I believe it's the F500 series. I believe it's before that. It was PS3 era, like before the PS4. And it basically said it like worked with the Wii. They had like L1 and L2 all the way to the left side where usually the square and X buttons are. It had like inside, it had like, it didn't have to when it pressed down on the buttons, it had like a contact pad below it, you know what I mean? Sort of like a cheaper build.
Oh, it was like capacitive.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
It's a much older one.
So, but do you know what I use now for when I play fighting
I would
games?
love to know. I would love to know.
I use the F500, and this is a Mayflash.
Oh, look,
so
there it is.
Wait,
so
So this is the same stick?
this is not the same stick. I guess my point is that companies can grow, they can get better, and I like you said, not everything's starting out is gonna be great, but eventually you might be able to make your F500 that I use for pretty much everything. Like I mean, other than I think this is a great build and a great price for an arcade stick starting out.
At least I.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. And honestly, I kind of
or you
regret
just
not
kill it with
not
a snack box.
Speaking of which, Snackbox.
Arcade stick all the way.
I think it's a really good. I mean, I could talk for days about arcade sticks, but it's a really good point that you make. That it's that phrase. It's one man's trash is another man's treasure, and you don't know what's going to be useful to a person. So making the Discord for the NihongoGamer channel like a few years ago, I wasn't expecting that many people to say that they had Mayflash sticks. I thought everyone was going to be on the Mad Catz TE2 club or the Razer Pantera club. I didn't expect anyone to really own a Mayflash, but there are still people in my Discord now who still like say, "Oh, I just bought the Mayflash, and I bought it because I'm just getting into arcade sticks. I've been watching your channel." It's like I don't even have a review on that stick. Why did you buy the Mayflash? And people talk about it, and they really like it because they find their own reasons to like the stick. They're like, okay, yeah, I have to plug a controller in when I use it, but it was one, cheaper. Two, I could still swap out. I think you can swap out all the parts for Sanwa parts if you want.
Can.
To.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's a very moddable controller, and like it's actually a lot like the Mad Catz, the original tournament edition sticks in terms of space for art. Can you put any picture you want underneath the plexi? Like there's like no other sticks that have a plexi anymore. The Victrix sticks, you have to get laser engraving. The Razer Pantera, if you don't have a hairdryer, you have to heat up the plexi to melt it off and put stuff underneath it. The Obsidian, you have to buy a separate mod, like from one of those companies that has like a different plexi to put on it. Like there are like no sticks out there apart from the Mayflash that you can just print out on A4 paper, like some art that you found on the internet and make it your customized stick.
Here's my thing. I don't play on consoles anymore. I mean, besides,
there you go.
I don't play on modern consoles. Like I don't play on the PS5 or the Xbox. I don't have either one of them. I just play on PC. So it's like I don't need to plug a controller in for the most part. I have a PS4, and if I'm gonna use that, then that's no big deal. But yeah, I mean, it works with a Brook converter. So if I want to play fighting games on my PS2, I just plug it in the Brook converter. It connects right away. So I fully recommend the Mayflash F500, and I've used it I've had this stick for like 6 years now, actually, which is kind of crazy to think about. No, wait, not 6 years. It must have been at least 4. It's got to be at least 4 years. So I mean, I use it every day.
It's all starting to make sense. Now that I'm looking at the guitars behind you, I'm like, okay, now I kind of understand. I understand this guy like 100% now, because this is what we're like about guitars. I mean, I haven't been playing my guitar very much recently, but that's what it's like with guitars. It's like I think there are a number of people who are just big fans of the Yamaha Pacifica. There's a number of cheap guitars out there that people don't let go of because, one, they had it from the start. Two, the frets are really low. They're not jumbo frets or anything. It's not a wizard neck, but it's like, this is what I got used to, and it actually does the job really well, and it doesn't break because it's less complicated than, like, if you had like a Line 6 guitar with a CPU built into it, it's like things can break.
Wait, they make Line 6 guitars now? Like actual guitars
Line 6, they did a collaboration with a Korean company to make a company that could be like any guitar. It had piezo, what are they called? Pickups. So that it figured out what the string was doing vibration-wise, and then it was like, okay, we're going to make it sound like an acoustic or make it sound like an electric. Then they did a collaboration with an actual, with a guitar, like a guitar luthier. Like, he's quite famous for making guitars for famous people. Anyway, the point is, they've got computers built in, so they can emulate. They emulate other guitars. But if the software dies and you're on stage, you'll be like, I wish I just brought my Squier Strat on stage with me, because I know it works. Yeah, it doesn't feel amazing to play, but I know it well. And it's like you never know what the reason is that someone's gonna fall in love with their tool of choice, whatever arcade stick it is, or pad controller or whatever.
I actually have two weird bases where I have a Silvertone. That's actually a Silvertone Crusher over there on the left. Which is a really cool, like, full-scale jazz bass. And then I actually have a a Dan Electro.
I've never had one. I always wanted one.
It's a Dan Electro that had a chorus effect built into it, which is weird. It's super weird.
Like that.
Yeah, it had a button that like you pressed it and like it would just turn on chorus effect. Other than that, a very cool looking bass. Unfortunately, the frets were starting to die.
Okay.
So I had to take out I ripped out the innards and replaced it with boy, I can't even remember what pickups I put in there, but yeah. Anyway, yeah, another very niche bass, but looks fantastic. Really, really the main draw of it is how great it looks. But
Absolutely.
But yeah, I think even then, like I don't have a US Fender jazz bass. I have a Mexican jazz bass, and that's a Squire over there.
I've actually heard that the Mexican Fender jazz bass was like there was like a generation of them that it was like as good, if not better than maybe the American one. I think it's quite legendary, the Mexican Fender jazz.
Yeah, I feel like everybody has, like most people have the Mexican jazz bass. I mean, I would personally be more impressed if someone had a Japanese one, because those ones apparently have like the same quality components as a US one. They don't make them anymore, I believe. I mean, I could be wrong.
We're going into guitar talk, but I think they did start up the Fender factory for various things, but I don't know if it's the same.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're making them to the same standard that the American series are being made, but yeah, this is one of those things. It's like guitars, controllers. It's like you never know what people's footstep into a gaming industry is going to be. It's like, are they here for the story? Are they here for the gear? Are they here for just the mind games? I mean, I remember when people talked about like leverless controllers and just the future of fighting games. It's just like, well, it's not about the input method. It's all about the mind games. It's like, well, let's be fair. Fighting games aren't only about the mind games. Like we kind of like the idea that we outplayed the other person physically as well. The other thing, I like, for example, if you went into an arcade, play DDR. Do you guys remember DDR?
Yeah,
Of course.
Okay, arrows on the ground. You're stepping on these things. If they let you just go and play on a pad controller because I don't know, you don't want to step. I mean, obviously, accessibility-wise, it means that people in wheelchairs probably will find DDR much harder. But
a little bit. If
you're in a competition, you're just like, okay, I'm gonna play DDR and you're gonna play on a pad. It's like the game's changed a little bit. This isn't the competition I thought I was entering, and I think all of this talk like fighting games are only about the mind games. It's not about the controller. It's like, well, is it though?
I'll tell you why I play on an arcade stick still is because of Street Fighter 4 actually, because plinking. Because that's why I was like, I can plink and it helps my inputs. Sick. I'm going to learn how to play on an arcade stick. That, and for whatever reason, when I went from a PS3 controller to an Xbox 360 controller, my hands would like forget how to do inputs correctly. I don't know what it was. It's something about
Stupid fingers.
the 360 D-pad was also terrible. So I remember being so used to a PS3 D-pad and PS2, and I was like, okay, so you're telling me if I play on arcade stick, I will never have this problem ever again? Okay, cool. Also, for some reason, I had a tough time using L2, L1, and L2. Just my hands didn't want. I mean, I could probably do it fine now, but back then
I had trouble with L1 and L2.
Yeah, it's like whenever I had to use them, it was like my hand didn't want to press those for like. Having like heavy punch or heavy kick on this side always messed with me. So I always mapped everything to R1, R2, R2 side. So I was like, okay, so I don't have to worry about any of that. It's just a flat face, all the buttons are right in front of me. There's an arcade stick on my left side. Okay, cool. I just had to learn how to do DPs, half circles, and all the gymnastics. But yeah, that's why I play an arcade stick now. Street Fighter 4.
I'm almost surprised that you're not a drummer. I feel like or do you play drums as well?
I did start out playing drums, yeah.
Oh right, okay. I can just see straight into your mind.
Get out of my head.
But it's like often the thing with guitar. It's like I think people are like, I want to be in a band, they start singing. It's just like I can't hit the high notes. Maybe I'll play an instrument. It's like, okay, I'm enjoying guitar, but it's just like, it's just, what is all this? Why do I have to do all this fast stuff and bar chords? And they just kind of freak out. And then you get to like percussion. It's just like, okay, you're telling me if I know how to move my arms, I can play any percussion instrument? And it's kind of like what it feels with the arcade stick. It's just like I can go to any arcade and I can play pretty much any video game because they all use the same control method. It's kind of exciting. Whereas, like, yeah.
No. Yeah, absolutely. Go on. So I didn't have the foresight either to realize that arcades weren't really going to be a thing forever. As well, I was just thinking, well, I can go to an arcade. I can go anywhere. It doesn't matter using an arcade stick. I don't know if I'm always. I also had an experience where I went to a Street Fighter 4 tournament, and it was on 360, and I was like, what is this? What is this controller? What am I doing here? I don't like this. And I played and I lost. And I also I also did a Soul Calibur 5 tournament where it was also on Xbox 360. And I started getting very angry with the idea of switching controllers from PS3 to Xbox. And I was like, I hate this feeling. Give me an arcade stick that works with both. So ever since then, I always buy something that is universal. So I don't have to deal with going from A to B to whatever. That's just me. That's how I look at tech.
I think the wider conversation here is the grip of the console industry on gaming and esports. Like, if you think of the controller for Street Fighter 4 was a PS3 pad or an Xbox 360 pad, or the controller for Smash Melee is a GameCube controller.
Yeah.
It's like they're linking their game to a proprietary piece of hardware that we won't always have access to, or we'll have to make our own third-party versions. And sometimes we're not even allowed to make a controller that's exactly the same because of trademarks or copyright or patents or whatever. But that's another reason why the move to PC is important in the long-term like growth of fighting games, because we need like console agnostic systems to play these games. We need controllers that we can use on anything. If you told me like Street Fighter 6 is going to be on DualSense and Street Fighter 7 is going to be on like DualSense 2, which is
VR,
like, wildly different. Yeah, VR, and your old DualSense controller won't work anymore. I'll be like, come on, I don't have time for this anymore.
Yep.
You have to do the actual punches and kicks in Street Fighter 7.
So like, and to add to that, like, it now makes sense why I only play on PC now, right? Because I don't have to mess with controllers anymore. I get to plug it in. I don't have to worry about putting in a disc anymore. My PS2 is like, all my consoles are soft modded so that I turn it on. There's an SD loader that kicks on like 700 PS1 games, right? Mm-hmm. And I can just play. So very much always building everything for kind of that sort of convenience of
absolutely.
Of universal.
Well, what struck me was what you said earlier about carrying a Brook adapter with you. It's almost like that might actually be the norm in the future when we're like going to PC, especially with the fact that PCs. One of the main things that's difficult about them is that they're all different. We don't know how this operating system is going to handle my controller. But the one thing we do know is that if you plug a Wingman, I think it's called the Wingman XB, into a computer, now the computer doesn't know what's plugged into it. It's like, I've got two adapters plugged into me, but if you take the controller out of the adapter, it thinks the controller is still plugged in. And so 1 player and 2 player are set. You know how like when you unplug controllers, like the order changes depending on which order you plug them in? Or sometimes I think Steam probably just remembers. It's like, oh yeah, you plugged in a PS4 pad earlier, and that was player 1. I'll make that player 1 again. It's like, Steam, come on. But with the Wingman, I think it might be the norm in the future for people to go to tournaments and everyone carries a Wingman adapter in addition to their controller, just to make sure that whatever they plug into there's not going to be any trouble.
Yeah,
who knows,
I could definitely see that.
Have you ever seen, you know what I did to like help that? And I don't know if you've ever heard of this, but did you know that Xbox has an adapter, a dongle that you can plug into your PC that can connect up to 8 Xbox One controllers?
That might be is that the same one? The Wingman
No,
XP?
it's actual like a first party Xbox dongle.
Oh.
Yes,
Oh.
I have it around here somewhere.
Oh, I had one a long time ago. I think do you remember when the Xbox 360 pad, I think maybe it still doesn't. There was a version of the Xbox 360 pad that didn't connect to Windows natively, and you had to use a dongle. This is in,
I think I remember
Yes.
that.
This is 2014.
I have that somewhere. I have that
Oh my
somewhere.
God.
I was
Piece of
like,
junk.
yeah, I was like, it's a Microsoft controller. It'll work with Windows for sure. Plugged it in. I was like, you're kidding. I need a dongle for this. There's no way. Only Microsoft.
Of course.
My dongle for it died too, so I was like, okay, cool, I'm just screwed.
Yeah.
So I feel like we should kind of delve more into these questions before.
Yeah, let's
'Cause we-
speed through them. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So Quint, do you want to ask the next one? We're actually on question 4 here.
I actually kind of wanted to jump up to 6 since we were talking about controller stuff in general anyway.
Do you want to go to 6 and then we can go to 5, I guess? And because
Yeah, that sounds good.
all right, yeah. So why don't you go ahead?
Because we're just on the concept of controls right now. So like, what are your thoughts on the Street Fighter 6 control like schemes, like how they're doing the classic, the modern, the dynamic? Do you think it's like helping like accessibility, or do you think like fighting games in my day, you had to press
Classic
all the
controls, boy.
inputs and yeah? Do you think it's like kind of like the future, or maybe just kind of like a flash in the pan thing that won't work?
I think anyone who is scared of controls, of modern controls, has a right to be scared, because what Street Fighter does actually does change everything for all of us. We can't just go, okay, just let Street Fighter do whatever they want. If they want to make modern controls, modern controls. The unfortunate truth is that they have this like responsibility as a front runner for making one of the original fighting games of all time, like Street Fighter 1, which I mean, even though I think the original fighting game was probably like international karate or something.
Karate Champ.
But then, karate
Not a
champ,
very good
something like
game. Not a very good one.
that. But they have a lot of responsibility, and what they do will change everything for a lot of us. Of course, we can still play the retro games, but our daily lives with fighting games will change based on what happens with Street Fighter 6. So I'm a little bit sad that Street Fighter has gone from I'm not angry, but I think it is a shame because Street Fighter does just fine without it. It's just that I think now that they're putting more Monster Hunter type budgets into the game, I think they're expecting Monster Hunter type results from the game, and they're like, we need this game to play like Monster Hunter. I need to press the sword button 3 times in a row and get a combo. That's I'm not saying that Monster Hunter is easy. There's still combos and timing and parries and stuff in Monster Hunter, but I think they realize like this control scheme from Street Fighter 2, I think it's 30 years old. We need to move on.
You cut me deep with that. I'm a Monster Hunter fanatic.
Are you really?
Yeah, I love Monster Hunter.
I like it, but I don't play it often enough. I like the game. So my feeling is that I'm a little bit sad that Street Fighter has gone for modern controls, because plenty of other games could do it on the side. Like, Grand Blue Fantasy went for modern controls, but I guess Street Fighter has decided, okay, what we do, everyone else is going to do as well, and we've decided that the future is modern controls. I don't know if there will always be... I think it's unlikely in the life of Street Fighter 6 that modern controls will be used at the top level. I think when they get to tournament level, I think they'll all still be using classic controls, just because it's already set in stone. They've already built the game that way. They would have to make some serious changes balance-wise to make modern controls actually better than classic controls, because I think you still lose access to a number of your moves when you do it. Right?
No, that's dynamic.
Oh,
but in modern you've only got 3 attacks, right? You don't have 6 punches and 6 kicks, or can you command and all?
I think you
gain
still
them all back?
have. I
You
think
still
you
actually
still
have access
have
to them?
all of them on modern. Modern just
have to, like, press
streamlines
back.
all of the inputs and stuff like that. Yeah. Because I saw videos where people were complaining actually because it's so easy with modern controls to be like jab, oh, DP confirm, you know?
Yeah, that, I mean, absolutely does change the meta of the game wildly. The question is, will it be enough to compete with classic controls at a high level? But I haven't actually yet.
Yeah.
I need to spend more time with the demo to find out what the actual limitations of modern controls are. But yeah, I think all I really want to say about modern controls is it's okay to be like scared of it, because I don't know, it's like if the music industry changed and or it's like AI, you know, we're all like, people are saying like, oh, just embrace AI, look, like, stop being scared of this thing, it can't even make art better than a person. It's just like, actually it can. If it has enough references, it probably will get better and better. And realistically speaking, what I'm always thinking about is what happens on the ground when we actually go to Evo and we play these tournaments. What will it be like? Okay, I'm playing against this person on modern controls. I'm playing classic controls because that's how the game was in 30 years ago, but it's moved on. Now we all play tennis with the handle instead. We hold the racket. We only use the handle part. Yeah. But if that's competitively advantageous, that's how it is. It's like, there will be people who'll be like, I don't want to play tennis anymore if it's like that. Or I don't want to play fighting games anymore if it's like that. It could be a slippery slope where it just becomes too simple and it loses what made fighting games exciting. Well, and especially for us, it sounds like a lot of us like our controllers. And I think if the joy of manipulating a tool, I get a lot like music. If you took away, if you made all bass guitars like Guitar Hero controllers, you just flick a handle and you just press 5 different buttons over here. It's like, yes, it's easier, and yes, more people would get into music if a bass guitar was just 5 buttons and a handle, but doesn't that kind of lose something? I like going to see concerts because people do difficult things. It doesn't have to be the most difficult thing, but it's definitely part of the joy of watching a gig when someone does something difficult, like a guitar solo or a riff, which is, you know, if you're not a guitarist, you probably couldn't play it, something like that.
Yeah, or
I hope I answered the question.
Oh no, you definitely did. Yeah, that was good.
Or
Thank you
hey,
very much.
like Muse, like, oh, how does he get that sound out of his bass? You know, that kind of thing.
Yeah, so many times you listen on the album, on Muse albums, and you're like, whoa, I wonder what synth the guitarist was using for that. And you go to the live gig, it's like, oh, actually he's on his bass with a chaos pad, like a touchpad on his guitar, and you're like, what? That was the bass the whole time? It's great. It's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's see here.
Now we cycle back. Back to question
Roll
5.
back to question
Yeah.
5.
Roll back.
We all use rollback here.
Roll back, boys. Let's go. Okay, so next question. What coffee? I know you're a coffee aficionado.
Yeah, drinking it now.
Absolutely. So we got a let's grind on this one. What coffee would these 5 Street Fighter characters drink and why? And the characters here are Ryu, Ken, Chun-Li, Blanca, and Zangief.
Okay, I'm gonna forget the characters. Let's start with the first one, which is it's Ryu.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, no, I have an opinion on Ryu. I don't know if I'll have an opinion on the others. I'll have to think of answers. But Ryu, my opinion is that Ryu would definitely drink decaf, because I think Daigo would drink decaf. I know that he's always drinking out of a Red Bull can, but I did hear they fill those Red Bull cans with water.
Yeah.
So they're only drinking it for the sponsorship, and I think I actually made a video about it, but then I think I took it down because I wasn't really happy with my opinion on it. Anyway, the point is, Ryu's the guy who goes to the tournament, wins the tournament, and doesn't even realize, right? He walks home without the trophy. He walks home barefoot. He doesn't even realize he's won. The whole ceremony's finished. This guy doesn't need caffeine. In fact, he's so about being in touch with his inner. He's trying to find who is that inner power
Yeah.
to get what is it, the Muno Hado instead of the normal
Satsui no Hado.
Satsui no Hado. He's like trying to get away from the murderous one and get away to like the pure Hado power.
Yeah.
You can't do that if you've got all these toxins in your body. Can you imagine Ryu on caffeine? He'd be like, "All right, guys,
God.
let's go, Hadouken!" No, he's like chilled out. He doesn't even know he's in the fight. He's beating people just by showing up. He's Goku.
Yeah, for sure.
He's Goku. Oh no.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to turn to
Hopefully he'll
evil
be a better
Ryu.
father.
Turn to evil Ryu if he gets too much caffeine in him.
Maybe that's how it happened.
Where's
What
my
about-
Goku guest character SF6? Come on, let's go.
Yeah, man. I actually. Ooh, okay, that's a whole nother subject. Guest characters in fighting games. Oh man. What do you think Ken would drink? What kind of coffee do you think Ken would drink?
Ken is an espresso drinker. I think Ken learned his business tactics from Italians. I think he wakes up in the morning, he goes to a bar, like an espresso bar, and he says, "I'll have the usual." They give him his espresso, and not like us in the West. We don't, we sip our espressos and we sip our cappuccinos. We want that drink to last as long as possible. He's like shot. Like the Italians, they show up at the bar. They don't even sit down. They just drink the espresso and then they walk straight out and go to work. And that's Ken. He's gonna go and build his empire. Except I don't know, the story in Street Fighter 6 is like he's being chased by the FBI or something. He's lost his empire. The wife took the kid. I don't even know.
Yeah, he's homeless. I don't know.
I think it has something to do with him being accused of terrorism somehow.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I believe this.
I can see it.
I believe that's it
I can
because
see it.
I believe Luke's father, ironically, I don't know why using those two words together, Luke's dad had died in a bombing of a shopping mall, and I think Ken Masters happened to be there. So he somehow got blamed. Look, I could be completely wrong. I believe I'm
Listen,
quoting this from memory, but
Have you seen his new kick stance? That is terrorism, all right? These are justified charges.
playing against Ken in the beta was ridiculous, man. He was doing 70% damage off of nothing. Swear to God.
I'm excited. I think I like his character design. I think it's something fresh, and I think he's been in the Ryu limelight for too long. He's basically wearing, well, actually, Street Fighter 5 he had a different outfit, but it's still kind of like, it's still based on that karate style gi. And I know that they trained together, but it's like Ryu. We think of Ryu as the one who wears the traditional. I don't know the name of the type of karate style that they do, but it's
Shotokan.
Shotokan. I know that's I feel like that's the Ryu thing. Now Ken has his own thing. He's got the trench coat, and he's like homeless. Okay, so
That's his thing, homeless.
that's his thing.
Hobo Ken.
But part two to the answer for what coffee would Ken drink. I reckon that now that he's lost the empire, the master's empire, he's homeless. He's on the street, and he's become an alcoholic. So he's drinking like whiskey. What is it? It's like whiskey coffees. He's drinking Bailey's coffees. He's got like Bailey's. He's become like, I don't want to become like toxic masculinity, but it's like kind of I want to say it's a girly drink, but we can't say that anymore, can we? Like that was a normal thing to say.
How dare you?
When I was growing up, we used to say that quite normally, like, oh, it's a girly drink. You don't say that anymore, do you?
If there's fruit involved in
Apple
your
tea,
drink,
please.
it's a girly drink.
Sorry.
I went to a bar. I went to a bar once, and no, it wasn't a bar. It was like a sports. Yeah, it was a sports bar, whatever. And I think I asked the waitress. I was like, if I put a lemon in my, an orange in my beer, is that a girly drink? She's like, yes it is. So apparently, if you put fruit in your drink, it is a girly drink. There you go. That's one of the. That's gospel.
I only have girly drinks. Unlucky.
Honestly, I had a friend from Indonesia who would only strictly drink like things that were considered girly drinks, and he'd be like, well, why are you drinking those? Is because they taste good, and that's all that
exactly.
matters, really. At the end of the day, who gives a damn, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
I used to love the girly drinks. I had Malibu and Coke was a good one.
Yeah, there you go.
Quite sweet, but I think it had nothing to do with only wanting to drink manly drinks, but I think eventually, like, I don't know, the reason you're drinking alcohol changes as well. You're kind of like, I want a drink that I can sip slowly, that intoxicates me, but is bearable. I think if I had a Malibu and Coke, after the first one, I'd be like, I don't want another one. I only wanted one small sweet drink.
You want to like people want to get buzzed, but they don't want to get drunk. You know, it's like, it's sort of like they want to relax. They don't, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You want a
wouldn't drink,
drink
like,
that
10
doesn't
Malibu
give you a
Cokes.
hangover.
Sorry?
You want a drink that doesn't give you a massive hangover.
Right.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
Of course. So what kind of now Chun-Li? What kind of drink do you think Chun-Li would drink?
Chun-Li drinks drip coffee. Absolutely.
Yeah, right?
Because she's obviously very in touch with her roots in Chinese culture. She wears the outfit. She fights on the China stage, which I think she's really into Chinese tea culture. Have you ever had tea in China the way that they do it there? They have these amazing tables that you can like buy on Amazon. They're like $100, and the whole table has a draining system built into it. So you put the cups on, you boil the water all on this like amazing table. Then they pour the water into the cups and they like cleanse the cups with the boiling water. And then they pour that boiling water onto the table, so it just goes off the edges like an infinity pool. And then like the whole process is important. It's like the preparation, the cleansing, then the tea itself, and they've also selected specific teas. I think if Chun-Li drank coffee, she would want an aspect of she would want a drink that has an aspect of ritualism to it. I need to pour this drip coffee at a certain speed, otherwise too much carbon dioxide gets caught beneath the granules or whatever. It's funny because I mean, to an extent, does any of this stuff make any difference? But at the same time, like, believing that it makes a difference is what gives you joy from making the drink at all.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's funny because caffeine actually doesn't really affect me. I've been really experimenting with decaf and drinking caffeine at night. And I think it doesn't actually keep me awake. If anything, I feel really sleepy after coffee.
I think
Me too, actually.
it depends on your tolerance. Maybe if you're like I think I personally I really do. Like I think it depends on your tolerance. I personally I'm an anxious person. So if I drink coffee, I get anxious. It's so like it doesn't. So it really depends on you. I think like for me, I can't really drink a whole lot of caffeine. It messes with me. What about
I can
Blanca?
drink a coffee and a soda and then just go to sleep.
Yeah, I can't do that anymore, man. I actually literally time my caffeine at least like 8 to 6 hours from when I'm going to bed. I'm like, I can have one energy drink and that's it.
Interesting.
And so I'm like,
I
okay.
couldn't live like that.
I'm like, okay, so from here, it's about, I don't know. I've got like 4 to 6 hours. Okay, I can sleep. But if I drink caffeine like 2 to 3 hours before I go to bed, I can fall asleep, but I will wake up because of caffeine.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's me though.
Another topic I could speak for days talking about coffee. I'm not because I know a lot about coffee, but just because I love coffee enough that I would be happy to talk about it for days. But anyway, your question about who did you say next is Blanca?
Oh yeah, what do you think Blanca would drink?
Blanca. I think Blanca is a French press guy. Just because
Really?
I don't know, he strikes me as like, I mean, this guy is spinning around. He's got electric bolts coming out of him. He needs something that is like thick and dense. You know, when you have drip coffee, it's actually drip coffee is actually kind of watery compared to like coffees that you get in Starbucks and all that. But filter coffee, you can let it sit there for as long as you like, and it just gets thicker and thicker and thicker. I think he'd be a. Also, what is Blanca's origin, by the way? Is it Brazil?
Yes, he's from Brazil.
Yeah, Brazil.
Can't remember which part, whether it was Central America or South America. I used to have these friends who were really into their
Coffee.
I think it was drip coffee that they used to drink. I think that's also how I learned how to make ice. I didn't realize that iced coffee is normal coffee poured onto ice. Like apparently I think maybe in Mexico or something. They're like, yeah, you pour the hot coffee onto the ice and it melts the ice as it goes into the cup, and that's how it becomes ice. I was like, oh my goodness. Didn't even know this.
Magic.
It's magic. I've got to learn more about this.
This iced coffee they speak of.
It's delicious.
Yeah, I imagine that.
I dig it.
I imagine the process of going from like hot to immediately cold changes it like chemically as well. So, might need to get into iced coffee.
So, see, to me, I would
go.
think that Blanca would drink like just straight energy drinks or something, like out of a can, like coffee. You know.
He doesn't.
He just has like those Starbucks shots, basically.
Yeah. He's going hard.
Blanca is loud and beastly, but I don't think he's as caffeinated and like buzzed as like Kage. I think Kage is like the buzzed. He's like angry. I'm gonna drink this energy drink and this coffee, and I'm gonna go and find Ryu now.
I'm gonna beat the crap out of him.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm
drinks
gonna
coffee
do when
to
I get
live.
there. I'm just gonna disappear when I arrive.
Wait.
I think that's what happened. His whole story mode was like,
Yeah.
he finally has this fight with Ryu, and then he just kind of vanishes. He's just like, you don't believe in me? No.
He's a jobber in his own story.
I mean, it's not as bad as Nikali, but it's pretty close.
Oh yeah. I didn't even play Nikali's story. They forgot about him, didn't they? He tattooed V. He tattooed Street Fighter 5 on his face, and then they made Rashid the main character. Poor guy.
Yeah.
I feel so bad for him.
Well, maybe they didn't make Kali so freaking awful. More people would have played him.
I'm, you know,
Talk about a wasted character design. Damn, man.
he's such a cool. He's so cool, man. Nikali is
So freaking
one of the
cool.
coolest characters, and it seemed like
install? Like, come on.
Yeah.
it seemed like he was going to be such an important character, and then once you play the story, he just shows up like 2 or 3 times, and then he just gets beat up, and he's like, "I'm gone now, goodbye," and then he disappears into the ethos forever.
Real like tuxedo mask energy.
What did you do? Tuxedo?
Tuxedo mask energy.
Oh yeah.
My work here is done.
Exactly.
Didn't do anything.
Goodbye, Sailor Moon. Just throws a flower at people.
See, you had the power to beat her all along.
He has
I love that.
Tuxedo Mask has the power of pep talks. That's his thing.
That was a great job. Don't worry about it.
I mean, he's the world's greatest cheerleader. I think if hot women showed up while I was playing at a tournament, I'm sure I would perform better. I would play better for sure.
Isn't that kind of like, well, part of his thing is like he could be a main character. He could be.
He
But
just chooses not to.
I don't know what his purpose is. Like, what does he do? Like, I don't
Love
understand.
interest.
He's the love interest.
Love interest. That's his job.
Yep.
And the-
He becomes an actual character later. Don't worry about it. All right.
Don't worry about it.
Does he fight? Does he actually
Well, I
fight
think
things?
yes. Actually, he does fight. Yes.
Yeah, not to get into like the deep lore of Sailor Moon, but they all lived on the moon before they were Earthlings, and then they lost their memory. Okay, so I think technically he's like fulfilling his role as to protect the newly born Sailor Moon, and make sure that she actually becomes the Moon Princess or whatever.
I just didn't know how he went from amazing like armor with a sword to.
Yeah, I remember the armor. That was good.
Yeah.
He clearly doesn't use it.
No.
That's just for pep talks. I just want to make Sailor Moon feel really motivated.
It's
I'm gonna wear
true.
this armor.
My whole thing is.
I do it.
Sorry, man. And my whole thing is like, does he remember like does he know Sailor Moon is Sailor Moon? Because you gotta think,
I can't
it's literally
remember.
Superman style of like disguise that Sailor Moon is wearing.
Oh, you mean just because of the disguise?
Yeah.
I can't remember.
It's like a fragmented memories kind of thing that he has going on. They don't like
Oh,
actually
yeah,
get
he
their
trans-
proper memories back until like a
Right.
fair bit later.
Right. Oh. But there's also the fact that maybe he becomes Tuxedo Master and he doesn't realize that he's becoming. He wakes up in bed.
Yeah.
He's like, why am I wearing a suit?
A lot of
And there's roses everywhere. What the hell?
yeah.
Man, I must have had a great night.
a lot of it's kind of crazy how much Sailor Moon revolves around reincarnation and the whole trope of Usagi. Doesn't Usagi mean like rabbit? I believe
Yep,
her name.
yep.
So and she lives on the moon, which is another sort of like I guess
Japanese
rabbits.
tradition.
Yeah,
You think that rabbits live on the moon?
indeed.
They should.
So I suppose lastly, what kind of coffee does Zangief drink?
Oh. I haven't thought about this. Zangief, what does he drink? He drinks flat white. I think he drinks a flat white or
Flat white.
cortado. One of those really. It's one of these brand new drinks that was invented in like Hampstead in like rural Britain or something. So it's not even really a.
I've never heard of this.
Okay,
Can
so
you explain a
if
little?
you- depending on the balance of how much milk you put into the drink, if you put like 70% milk, it becomes a cappuccino. If it's like half and half, it's like a cortado or something. And if you have like a certain percentage, it's a flat white. I don't really know what the percentages are, but I imagine that Zangief shows up, and he's like terrifying just by existing. He's just so big. You're like, you're not even gonna fit through the door, man. Just what are you doing here? But he finds a way. He just sort of like bashes the whole door down, and then he sits down and has like the most eloquent drink that you can imagine. And a flat white doesn't come in a big
Pinky out.
saucer like a cappuccino. It comes in like quite a dainty cup. That's what I think he sits down with his dainty little cup. He's just like, how was your day? kind of. He's
Quite
like
proper.
Yeah, he's very proper, and this is the sort of person you want to relax and chill out with after a day of work because, yeah,
Indeed.
He let off all his steam in the fight.
he's let off
It's
all
fine.
in the match. Yeah.
Wait, what's isn't there like a Russian coffee specifically though as well?
Oh, yeah, he is into his Russian culture. Apparently, his hobby is Cossack dancing. I know there's like, there's that one scene from Street Fighter 2 when he's doing the dance with the politicians or something, but or maybe the Secret Service. I don't know who they are.
I believe
But yeah,
he,
it's true that he.
I believe it's like the Russian president or
Is it?
yeah, at the time. I can't remember his name, but it's before Putin that the guy had
Right.
sort of run the country. It was a look-alike.
My history. my history is a bit hazy on that one. It's true. There's probably a Russian coffee, and it would make sense for him to drink it. But I think that he's just one of those people that he's like women's best friend. Like, women love to just have him over for tea. They wouldn't have us from the rest of the FGC.
No.
They'd be like, you guys, can you guys look? We're having girls' night, and we're just gonna chill out with our tea, and we're gonna natter about various gossipy things. And Zangief's like all in. He's like, oh, did you hear what happened to Ken? Oh my goodness, it turns out he's actually a bit of a crazy person. Like, oh my,
He's a terrorist. What? That's insane.
when did this? Sorry, I must sound like an absolute sexist. I keep making all these weird, random sexist remarks on this. I'm not. I'm honestly not. I'm honestly not. I swear.
I swear, guys. I swear.
I swear I'm not. I'm so not.
So you heard it here first. NihongoGamer sex is confirmed.
Completely sexist.
Yeah. So,
Actually, Quinn,
another question?
I actually think we should probably wrap up here. But
Wrap up?
yeah, we hit about the 2-hour mark. So
That's true. I'm
Yo,
still going strong.
But it's because some of us don't drink coffee at night.
winding down.
That's why you're lagging, man.
I don't drink much coffee at all. It's fine.
I'm just joking.
So Quinn, where can people find you, man?
You know, streaming twitch.tv/QuintessenceHD, talking a bunch of trash on Twitter and posting memes, QuintessenceHD as well, and then of course on the Backlog podcast.
Awesome, man. NihongoGamer, where can people find you?
I think the easiest place to find me is the YouTube channel, NihongoGamer, or on Twitter. I admit I'm not very good at Twitter. In fact, I'm really bad at Twitter, but I do like wasting time on there. And I do have a Twitch channel, but I don't stream regularly anymore, and I'm not sure if I will return to it. I think if I do return to streaming, it might just be on YouTube, so I don't have to balance running two separate platforms. But yeah, YouTube and Twitter.
Yeah, excellent. Well, guys, you can find the backlog on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. We're on Twitter, pretty much all just the backlog. And of course, you can find us anywhere you get podcasts. So until then, guys, this has been the Backlog Podcast number 53. We'll see you soon, guys. Bye-bye.
Take care, folks. Bye.
See ya.